One of the world's most celebrated war correspondents has died at the age of 105. Nowadays, Claire Hollingworth isn't what you'd call a household name, but during her long career she covered war and conflicts across the world, narrowly escaping death several times along the way. She's perhaps most famous for breaking one of the biggest stories of the 20th century. Anne Barker reports.
This is the national programme from London. Germany has invaded Poland and has bombed many times.
It's been dubbed the scoop of the century. The news in August 1939 that hundreds of Nazi tanks were gathered at the Polish border ready to invade. And when they did, 3 days later, it was the start of World War II.
I rode along a valley and there was tarpaulin up to prevent you looking down into the valley. And suddenly a gust of wind blew the tarpaulin away from the moorings, and I looked down into the valley and there were scores, if not hundreds, of tanks lined up.
The journalist who broke the story was no seasoned war correspondent, but Claire Hollingworth, a 27-year-old rookie reporter who'd been on the job for less than a week.
1939, I went out to Poland to become number 2 to Hugh Carlton-Green of BBC fame, and I got to Warsaw and he said, one of us has got to go to the frontier, and I was on the German-Polish frontier when the German hordes, tanks, moved in.
In previous interviews, Claire Hollingworth told how she'd originally gone to Germany to help refugees fleeing the Nazis, but she quickly developed a passion for war reporting.
I enjoy action. I enjoy being in a plane that's bombing something, or being on the ground in the desert when they're advancing.
Hollingworth went on to cover wars in the Middle East and in Vietnam, where she revealed secret talks going on between Hanoi and Washington. She'd had other scoops too, for example, breaking the story of Kim Philby's defection to Russia. Other correspondents who followed in her footsteps, including veteran BBC reporter John Simpson, regularly sang her praises.
She was always in the right place at the right time. Who did the first interview with the Shah of Iran? Claire Hollingworth. Who did the last interview all those years, 30, 40 years later, after he fell? Claire Hollingworth, and she was the only person that he wanted to speak to.
Long after retirement, Claire Hollingworth was still living life to the full. In October, she celebrated her 105th birthday. Her great-nephew Andrew Flood spoke about her extraordinary life.
I had a very small, quite unreliable microlight aircraft, 2-seat, 2-stroke engine. I asked her one day, would you like to come flying with me? And she said, oh yeah, of course. So I sat her in the back seat of this little microlight. It was no electric start, a pull starter. So I got it started eventually and took her for a flight around, and I think she really loved it. At that time she was 80.
Claire Hollingworth moved to Hong Kong 35 years ago to write a book about Mao Zedong, but she stayed on to cover the return of Hong Kong to China and never left. She wrote for the Asian Wall Street Journal and the International Herald Tribune well into her old age and gave up reporting only in her 90s.
Anne Barker reporting.